it doesn't matter what we do. There's always a plan to it. So it goes without saying that you'd coach, you plan your coaching sessions, but also you whether it's off-field coaching and video analysis, you'd plan it, and even down to conversations that you might have as an individual. What do you want the outcome to be?
Hello and welcome to the latest instalment of the UCFB LMA Insight series, where we talk to managers past, present and future to discuss their careers and pass on invaluable advice to UCFB and GAS students. My name is Neil, and today I'm going to be joined by a man who was last seen in the dugout at Huddersfield Town. And just a few years ago, he was teaching PE at a school in Essex. I'm delighted to welcome Danny Cowley. Danny, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Neil.
Great stuff. Now, thank you for joining us today. Much appreciated. First question, Danny. Before we get into your management, it was kind of you obviously were in the youth setup at Wimbledon and played for Dagenham, the non-league clubs before injury hit, and then you offered the assistance role at Concord Rangers. Tell us about that transition from playing to management. Did it come naturally to you?
Well, I think for me, football was always the first thing that I thought about when I woke up in the morning, and the last thing that I thought about before going to bed. And I loved playing, absolutely loved it, and didn't see my retirement coming. Really, it kind of crept up on me. I was playing regularly at non-league level and doing well, played in some successful teams, and then picked up an injury, and I spent about 18 months trying to rehab that injury. Kind of at the back end of it, started to realise that maybe I wasn't going to be able to play at the level that I wanted to. And then you, without over-exaggerating it, you kind of go through this mourning period where you realise that probably you're not going to play again. And it'd been such a big part of my life that it was, what do I do to fill that void, and what's next? And obviously I'd been teaching at that point for maybe 8 years. And I'd been teaching at a successful secondary school at a big extracurricular tradition. So we'd competed at kind of county, national and even world level in a variety of sports. So I've been used to coaching and managing teams. And yeah, kind of fell into non-league football. We at Concord Rangers as a manager, really, that the guy that I did it with, Danny Scopes, he was still playing. So he was a player manager. So that meant that he had still big input in actually playing. So as a consequence, I picked up the role, did a lot of the coaching, did a lot of the management part of the role, and yeah, we managed to have some success in year one. Talked Nicky into coming to play for me, and at that time I was only 29, so I still had quite a lot of friends that were still playing the game and maybe playing at higher levels, and kind of convinced them to come and play for us, and that got me off to a good start in my managerial career.
Did you ever see yourself as a manager when playing? Was it almost kind of forced upon you because of injury?
No, I love the game. My dad coached, so my dad introduced us to the game, and I'll be forever thankful to him for that. And he managed my team and Nicky's team growing up at grassroots level, and we had successful teams, and my friends would always hold my dad in such high esteem. I think he just made football fun, and as a consequence we loved it, and as a result of that we become more and more curious and wanted to learn. And I always remember the relationships that he had with the players, and that's the one thing that I took from my dad. He kind of created this trust and this relationship with the players and that were my friends at the time, and they always knew that he wanted the very best for them. And yeah, so I think I love the game. I've always been a student of the game. I've always wanted to understand the game, and because of my teaching background, kind of a lot of my teaching skills were quite transferable to coaching. So yeah, it happened that way, really.
I was going to say this question to later, but I'm going to say it now. You just mentioned it, that transferability of skills. How much of it can you transfer from maybe a classroom of youngsters into an environment with professional athletes? What can you bring across? What is that difference?
Well, I think ultimately, whether you're a coach or a teacher, it's about people. And for me, it's always about being pupil-centred or latterly player-centred. We talk a lot now about game models and about technique and tactics, but the best coaches for me, don't forget, it's about people. and they never forget that, and it's always about trying to improve the person. And I always try to build a relationship and try to build a trust with the person. I think once you do that and they realise you have their best interests at heart, from there, then you can start to improve them as players. And, you know, the bigger picture is to try to improve them as human beings if you can.
At Concord, you spent about 8 years there as an assistant and then obviously as the manager. How important is it to build those long-term relationships with players and staff? And I suppose has that become harder in football with maybe the lifespan of a manager being much shorter?
No, I think it's absolutely imperative that you do that. It's always about relationships. You look at all of the best managers that have stood the test of time. One of my all-time favourites is Bobby Robson, and you look at his ability to manage and get the best out of people, and he had such a warmth in his personality. And I believe if you build a relationship and you genuinely have the player's best interests at heart, then as a consequence of that, they're much more likely to go the extra yard for you, and that's what you're always looking to try to achieve. So no, relationships are key to any football manager, and of course you've got to have a subject knowledge, and of course you've got to understand the game and the technical and tactical aspects of the game. But first and foremost, it's about managing the players and trying to get the very, very best out of the players, and trying to create an environment and a culture that allows the players to play at their best.
And then after Concord, obviously went to Braintree, had a season there, missed out on the promotion in the playoffs. Went to Lincoln, but then in especially 3 years, you went from the National League to League One. What core values did you install at the club to create that culture of success? Because it wasn't just promotion, it was that FA Cup run, and it was also the trophy as well.
Of course, yeah. When we arrived at Lincoln, the club had been relegated. It'd been relegated from the Football League for 5 years, and in the National League, it hadn't finished above 13th in those 5 years, and it had just lost its direction and lost a bit of energy. And for Nicky and I, really, we just come in and brought some enthusiasm, brought some direction, tried to get in clarity, so a self-awareness of where the club was currently at. We then put a vision in place, which we felt that the club could achieve. And once you've kind of got a start point and a destination, then the stepping stones become that much clearer. For us, it's always about values. So, you know, for me, they're the foundation of everything. So what do you stand for? What do you want the team, the club to stand for? And, you know, for us, it's always around work ethic and having a relentless work ethic, having a real discipline about the way that you behave and conduct yourself and how you live. Also to have respect and humility, you know, a humility to always want to get better and to always want to try to improve. And I think once you create those foundations, that then gives you a platform to then be able to put processes in place. And again, we live around planning. Planning's always been crucial to us. You know, for me, nothing happens. It doesn't matter what we do. There's always a plan to it. So it goes without saying that you'd coach. You plan your coaching sessions, but also you know, whether it's off-field coaching and video analysis, you'd plan it, and even down to conversations that you might have as an individual. What do you want the outcome to be? And once you work out what you want the outcome to be, you can plan the conversation accordingly. And that's a big part. I think learning is a skill, and that's another key feature of how we work. And I actually, as a teacher and as a coach, I try to teach people the skill of learning, because not everybody has it, and it's a wonderful skill. It's probably the best skill that you can possibly give anybody. And also communication, to have real clear communication, clear lines of communication, have real clarity. I always try to have the difficult conversations early and as quickly as I can. I think as a football manager, you respect that ultimately you're going to have a lot of difficult conversations on a daily basis, but to have those conversations as quickly as you can, I think, one, it clears your conscience and it doesn't weigh you down and affect your energy levels. And two, I think, you know, people want to know the truth, and whether it's good news or bad news. I believe if you communicate it early and you communicate in the right way, then that benefits everybody.
Look, I mentioned it in the question there, but obviously you took Lincoln to Wembley for the first time in 2018, the EFL Trophy final. How special was that to take the club to Wembley the first time, but also to win it as well?
Yeah, it was a brilliant moment for the club. Obviously, 133 years, the first time they went to Wembley. I think we took 30,000 Lincoln supporters that day, which was just incredible. And says everything about Lincoln as a city, actually, the allegiance that the people have with Lincoln, not just a football club, but with the city. It's a wonderful place, a really unique, special place. And we had a fantastic time. Actually, I think I'd got to one game away from Wembley as a manager on 6 occasions and lost every semi-final. So going back all the way to Concord Rangers in the FA Vars in our first year, all the way through, I think we had playoff games and trophy semi-finals and lots of times where we could have got to Wembley and didn't quite make it. So I actually thought I was never going to get there, and it was definitely a childhood ambition of mine to get there. Probably at that time as a player, but latterly as a manager. And yeah, it was a brilliant moment, and we won the game. And yeah, it was a day that will live with me forever.
And of course, I've got to ask you about that FA Cup run as well. I think you were the first non-league team to the quarterfinal over 100 years. Obviously, you beat Premier League Burnley along the way, then went to the Emirates, Arsene Wenger's Arsenal. From a personal point of view and your career trajectory, how was that kind of going up against someone like Arsene Wenger?
Yeah, just a brilliant experience. It's probably this has been the first period in my life that I've actually been able to sort of step back and actually realise what we achieved there, because at the time it was all happening at such a pace. Kind of went from my next door neighbour not even knowing who we were to then obviously getting the publicity off of the back of that and the profile off the back of that cup run. Did it with a brilliant group of players. We had total clarity over how we wanted to play. We had a way of playing that really suited the players that we had at our disposal. We were an organised team and we had real momentum and confidence. And it's amazing when you put all those things together, what you're able to achieve. And yeah, some brilliant moments kind of culminated with us playing Arsenal at the Emirates in front of 62,000 people. And for 45 minutes it was 0-0, and it was all going pretty well. The second half was a bit more challenging, but a brilliant experience. And Arsene Wenger was brilliant with us. Spent nearly an hour and a half with us after the game, and we had question. I was like Chris Tarrant, just asking question after question to him. But he was fantastic. And at that time, Arsenal were having a really difficult moment. Actually, I think they previously just lost 5-0 to Bayern Munich. And he was having a difficult moment, but he still spoke with so much passion and so much love for the game, and that really resonated with me at the time.
You mentioned a few times already in our interview about your brother. He's by your side throughout all of this. How does your relationship work on the training ground, in the dugout? Is it kind of is it you then him, or you're a dual manager, as it were?
Well, it's a special relationship, a unique one, and it's one that works for us. Nicky and I have been used to kind of living in each other's pockets. We've always been close. We've had similar interests all of our lives. Nicky and my wife, actually, we all taught together at Fitzwymark School. So we had 15 years at the school. I was head of PE. We went on to be, I think we were State Sports School of the Year in 2013, which was, I think there was 3,600 secondary schools at the time. So that was something that, as a school, we achieved, which we'll be forever proud of, and managed through that period to work with some brilliant sports people that now playing professionally themselves, and had some great moments at sort of county and national, and even I think we come fourth in the world at athletics in 2002, 2012, which was some experiences that I will always look back on fondly. And our relationship really is one that we kind of have a telepathic understanding of each other. We kind of know how each other works. People think that we're similar, but we naturally have different traits. But we can certainly bounce off of each other. and obviously we have that commodity of trust, which is something that's difficult to find, particularly in football. And I think all of that allows us just to deal in the truth, and that normally allows us to get to the solution of the problems. Naturally, in football, you have problems, various problems, whether they be technical, tactical, on the pitch, off the pitch. It allows us to find a solution to those problems quickly. And like I said, I would never have achieved what I have done without his contribution. And like I said, it's a relationship that works for us, and it keeps my mum and dad happy as well.
Keep them happy, absolutely. Yeah. And we're staying on the theme of family. How do you manage the kind of the level of demands expected of you and Nikki when you're in management, but also looking after your own kind of mental health, your family, your personal life? How does that all kind of work together?
Yeah, that without doubt is a challenge. Trying to park football and find a time to just, particularly when you come into the house, because after a difficult result, I try never to carry the results with me back into the house, because it'd be so unfair on my children and my wife. So I try to do that. I try to park football, and I think we have a little routine that we have that allows us to do that, and it does take managing, and it's not always possible. My wife calls it football fog, where I'm in the room and I'm present, but I'll probably fill up with football and not listening or not paying as much attention to my children as I should be. So that is a challenge. I think self-care is really important, just to be able to make sure that you get out each day and do enough exercise and do something for yourself, and just look after what you eat, your exercise and your sleep patterns. Trying to do that is so important if you want to perform at your best every day. And ultimately, as a football manager and as a coach, you're managing everybody else's performance, but you've got to make sure that you allocate enough time to manage your own.
Obviously, we spoke about a bit, a good part of your career was kind of built in the lower leagues and non-league. A lot's been said about the non-league recently, obviously with COVID and various aspects going on. How important is that to the whole football pyramid and the game in general in England, the grassroots, the lower leagues?
Well, we have the greatest football pyramid in the world, don't we? And I think we should be so proud of that. You've only got to look at the Conference South and the Conference North, sort of step 6, tier 6 football, and yet there's still 2,000, 3,000 supporters at clubs like York City. So we should be so proud of the pyramid, and certainly, I have the pleasure of working at grassroots level as well. My daughter plays. She plays for a little team called Lincoln United, and I coach her and get to see a lot of grassroots football. And we've got to make sure that we keep putting the time and the energy and the funding into that area of the game. And whether that's through the facilities and the quality of pitches, the development and quality of coaching or officiating. But we know that the broader and the more people that we have at participation level at grassroots, the more likely we are to find the top players at the pinnacle of the game. So it's up to the people in the decision-making seats to put self-interest to one side and see the bigger picture, and know that they hold a big influence here, and they hold the purse strings, but they need to keep making sure that they see the benefits in grassroots.
I think I know the answer to the following question, as a man who was teaching for many years, but how much importance do you place on education, especially for aspiring football coaches?
Yeah, well, I'm 42 now, so I've spent 37 years in education in one form or another. At first as a pupil, and latterly as a teacher and a coach. Learning is the greatest skill of them all. And I've had a great period since leaving Huddersfield of being able to go back and improve my skill set and improve my learning, and I'm thoroughly enjoying this period at the moment doing that. But knowledge is the bomb, isn't it? So if you can keep trying to upskill and keep trying to improve your knowledge and your understanding, then that gives you the tools to hopefully be successful. And it's interesting to the way coaching is going now. And we're living in a world now where we're trying to empower the player, and the players are now asking why. Whereas historically, coaching is something that happened to a player. Now all of a sudden the player is being involved in the process, and they're actually being involved in the learning. And learning is not just something that's happening to them. It's actually interactive, and that to me is fantastic that we've moved that far forward in society, but particularly in football, because football coaching has moved hugely and progressed hugely in recent times. So that's something that really excites me. But as a consequence of that, you do need to make sure that your knowledge and understanding continues to evolve and to improve, because players are questioning, and rightly so. They want to know why, and that's great.
I've got one more question for you, Danny. So UCFB, GIS, we've got a lot of students who aspire to work in football and sport. Maybe you want to be a manager like yourself, work in media, work in business. What one piece of advice can you give them to go on and succeed in the football and sports industry?
For me, only we control our destiny. Nobody else but ourselves control what we can be. And a lot of people will tell you that you can't. But for me, if you have passion and you have a work ethic and a skill set, and you really want something, then you'll find a way. But to get out and to practice, you have a brilliant opportunity while at university, that you have time. And if you can allocate the time to be able to get out there, to go and get some real life work experience and go and practice your skills, I'll be forever grateful for the journey that I've had. I spent 15 years as a teacher, and that gave me an opportunity to refine my skills, to make mistakes, to learn, and to find myself, and to find the confidence in me to be able to go and teach and to coach to the level that I was capable of. So no, get out, get practicing, and remember, teaching and coaching is about people. Whoever said that don't get close to your players, I don't know whoever said that, but that is just terrible advice. That is awful advice. To get the best out of people, you've got to understand them. You've got to know what they want to achieve. You've got to know what makes them tick and what motivates them. And then you can start to really have an influence and an impact.
Danny Cowley, thank you so much for your time today.
Sure, thanks, Neil.